Oh, that's in.
Blistering starts to a tennis match.
Shakespeare got it wrong. It wasn't King Lear. It's King Lear.
LeBron James with no regard for human.
Yuvraj Singh finishes things off on style.
This is a News Laundry podcast, and you're listening to NL Playoffs.
Hello, welcome to NL Playoffs. This is round 4 of our budding podcast. My name is Gowtham. I have with me my co-host Aniketh. Aniketh, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
We have another busy couple of weeks of sports. We have a few things to cover actually today, so I think we should get straight into it. But Aniketh, how has your sports week or two been so far?
It's been interesting, chaotic, but fun nevertheless, as always.
Yeah, so we actually have a few things to cover today. We'll do some tennis. We'll just briefly touch on the Formula 1 season, as well as some stuff from India at the Under-20 World Championships, as well as the Paralympics. We also have a big series going on between India and England. We'll go through that as well. But let's get into what's made the news recently, Aniket.
So, as we all know, the US Open is going to begin soon. And the qualifiers are actually happening, the qualification rounds for US Open. But there is actually some sad and distressing news for the Williams sister fans. So, Serena Williams has actually withdrawn due to a last-minute hamstring injury. I mean, there were issues she had, I think, during the Wimbledon as well. But now it's confirmed that her hamstring injury recovery is going to take longer than expected. So she's dropped off from the tournament. And she happens to be, I think, the 6th major player now to actually drop off. So we have Roger Federer, who's not coming in. We have Rafael Nadal, who's not going to be playing. And then, so there's Venus Williams. And then there is, who else? Can you remember, Gautam?
Yeah, so I was actually, Xenia is on my Twitter follows now. Xenia Dikuna, if you haven't listened to our last episode, please go ahead and do listen to that. So she actually tweeted a very interesting thing. Apparently, this is the first time since 97, neither Serena Williams or Federer or Nadal played in the US Open. So it's 21 plus 3, 24 years. So in the last 24 years, one of Federer, Nadal and Serena Williams have played in the US Open. Now that Venus has also pulled out, it's going to be a weird US Open, but I think it's on the men's side, at least it's open. It's wide open for Djokovic to go to number 21 Grand Slam.
Yeah, and it seems to be his for the taking. And I mean, you cannot call it so early, but I'm excited to see how he performs in US Open. And if I was a bookie, if I was betting, I would put my money on Djokovic to actually come out with a calendar slam. But then that's me.
I was 100% sure that he would win the Olympic gold. So there we go. That did not come true at all. Because he was in red hot form going into the Olympics. And I thought there's no way he's going to not win the gold. But yeah, not to be. But I'm sure he'll be raring to go to get that calendar slam.
Yeah, that's it. And it will, send him on the history books. He's anyway going to be there, written in bold letters along with Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. But this is another feather to his cap. Sorry. Yeah. We also have Sofia Kenin, who's pulled out from the US Open because she tested for COVID-19 and she's 5th ranked. And she's apparently had her COVID vaccine taken. So this is news, worrisome also for the vaccinated folks. And we also know that COVID can strike even after your vaccination. But here's another, big shot celebrity who's encountered and dealing with repercussions of COVID. And then Naomi Osaka is going to be on the courts. So Gautam, I'm sure you must be excited to see her in action because she's going to be playing her third. I think she's going to attempt for her 3rd title.
Yes.
And she's also, and there is Ashley Barty who's going to be playing for her US Open after a spectacular win at the Olympics.
At the Wimbledon, actually.
Sorry, at the Wimbledon,
she crashed out of the Olympics. Yeah. So, yeah, Naomi Osaka's tournament is the US Open. I'm pretty sure she will go in as the favorite. But of late, she's been devoid of any match practice. She crashed out early in the Olympics. That was her big tournament of the year for her, I think, the Olympics, because she carried the flag for Japan, and she was there are high hopes, but she could not meet the expectations there. But Naomi Osaka, I think, feels at home in the US Open in Flushing Meadows. So she's definitely going in as a favorite. But I think Ashley Barty, it's interesting with women. Once Serena crashes out, it almost feels like a musical chairs as to who wins each Grand Slam, because if not for Serena, it's Ashley Barty is there, Naomi Osaka is there. It could be anybody. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I know a bit of a teaser for next episode, I guess. We hope to have a subscriber on for next time to recap the US Open. He is a big tennis enthusiast, so we are really looking forward to having him on as well. So he will give us, I'm sure, a much more in-depth analysis than our shallow analysis here.
For sure, I'm looking forward to that. But it does seem to be this. The stage seems to be set for Naomi Osaka to redeem herself after, especially what has happened in Japan and the expectations that were set. And unfortunately, she crashed out early. But Flushing Meadows seems to be the place where she would like to get back on track, and it's her title to lose, according to me.
And remember, she kind of pulled out of the Wimbledon. She had to pull out of the French Open. So this is the last Grand Slam of this year. So I'm sure she'll be raring to go. So we'll see what happens. She has a really good hard court game. So definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, and also in the men's qualification, so we saw Prajnesh Guneswaran actually progress after beating Braden Schnur of Canada. So I briefly saw the highlights. Did you get to?
No, I did not. I know you watched the highlights.
Yeah, briefly I saw the highlights and it was interesting. He seemed to have some really good shots up his sleeve and it was a nice game. He won in straight sets. So the second one went to tiebreaker though, so it was slightly close, but he seemed comfortable and poised. So let's see where the Indian talent takes us, but I'm excited to see players playing.
Jude tells us in his by the way, producer Jude is producing a podcast, so thanks to him. So he mentioned in the notes that he's 31 years old, so it's just kind of interesting that I thought he would be much younger. I've not heard of Prajnesh before, so this is my first time, mea culpa. So yeah, he qualified to the second round. He's 31 years old, so we'll see how far he goes. Because I know Sumit Nagal, who's always on the rounds, doing the rounds in the tennis circuit, he crashed out, as well as Ramkumar Ramanathan, who's another guy who is on the circuit of late. So both of them failed to qualify for the US Open. So we'll see what happens to Prajnesh. No high expectations, but it will always nice to see an Indian men's player once in a while to play in the singles. We've always been accustomed to either women's singles players or men's doubles players. So this will be nice.
For sure. And I think it's very promising, right? I mean, you can't expect an Indian player to come on the scene and just to win the US Open. So I'm excited that we have folks who are at least competing at one of the highest levels. And I think this is a step, because you don't get to the podium without taking this step. So this is exciting news for men's tennis especially, in a long time.
Yeah, 100% sure. The one good thing about US Open for you and me, Aniket, is that both of us live in America. So at long last, we have a tournament which is convenient to our time zone. So I'm hoping to catch some of the US Open, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about this in our next episode. So more on that to follow. But tell me, I know you are the Formula One addict / follower on between you and me. I follow it, but not as much as you do. Do you want to give us just a brief recap or where things stand this season? I know we are recording this on 27th of August, India time, in the morning. So if you want to give us a quick update as to where things stand.
Sure. So Formula One has going to resume this weekend after its summer break. So we have like the first half of the season that's done. And it's been super exciting, this first half at least. So there is a great competition between Red Bull. So finally they've stepped that game up. And their driver Max.
At long last.
Yeah, and I think it was waiting to happen, because it's been 6 years. Mercedes have been running unchallenged. I think they fight only among themselves. So their top two drivers are generally the ones who are fighting for a championship. But now you have the young Max Verstappen, who is very exciting to watch. And the season is very interesting because Max was actually leading until the last Grand Prix. And now Lewis Hamilton's taken the lead by 8 points. So it's very interesting to see how the season will go. And Red Bull have two really strong drivers in Verstappen and Sergio Perez. So I really look forward to what's going to come out of this season.
Yeah, I really hope, I think we discussed this a little briefly in one of our episodes, but I really hope Max Verstappen does it this time. It's so boring to have one guy winning it all. It gets repetitive and monotonous. But yeah, things have really kicked off. There's been some kind of drama in every race. I know the Belgium Grand Prix is coming up in a couple of days' time, so we'll see what happens. Hamilton is now up by 8 points. Mercedes seem to be pretty good. But let me ask you this, Aniket. I know rules are changing next season, right? Would it mean that it's more of a level playing field from next season?
Yes. So that's the hope, right? So we can only predict what the experts are saying. But the whole idea of changing the rules is actually to make it a level playing field for the cars that are at the back of the grid. So the idea is that you want tighter races and more interesting races to happen. So the sheer dominance you see now by Mercedes, we are hoping won't exist anymore because the cars have been changed. So you're going to have a new set of cars, newly designed cars, where they expect that the cars that are following will be able to now overtake much easier. And, you can follow much closer than you can actually do now, because there's a lot of aerodynamics which comes into play in Formula One, which is what excites me in this sport. But yeah, so these cars are being designed to make the race more interesting, and I'm really looking forward to the next season.
Aren't the engines changing too a little bit?
They are. So the engines, the tires, the cars, it's almost an overhaul that's happening. So, the Red Bull's current manufacturers, who are Honda, so this is their final season with Red Bull. So they actually came in 2 seasons back. They've done a good job, but it seems to be an unsustainable business for them. So they are bailing out of Formula One for now, at least. So Red Bull's going to be making their own power units from the next season onwards. So it's going to be exciting. I mean, it's going to open, the box for everyone to just throw a spanner in and see who stands where. Yeah.
That is exciting. Red Bull, from energy drinks to power units and Formula One engines, they run the whole gamut when it comes to making things.
You know what? When you say it like that, we should once talk about Red Bull, the energy drink team, and its contribution to sport, because it's pretty interesting, the stuff they are doing and stuff they have done. So yeah, for sure.
They have their sponsorships and all of that in the Bundesliga as well. So they have a whole RB Leipzig, right? That is their team. So they have a whole team named after them. So it's very interesting how widespread they are in Europe in the world of sports.
For sure. They're also in
looking forward to Formula One.
Yeah, and they're also in adventure sports. You see them in various adventure sports. So we'll talk about that on another podcast. I think that's a good thing to keep on our bucket list for the future. With that being said, so there's news from India. So Gautham, I know we briefly spoke about this, but so a lot of things have been happening around Neeraj Chopra's gold medal, which was India's one gold medal after I don't know how many years. And, so he was apparently annoyed, or I don't know, for lack of a better word, not satisfied, because he missed actually the Diamond League because of all the felicitation ceremonies that he's had. He couldn't train, and he also fell sick during this time. So he came out with what I loved and was a powerful statement. And he says India can't and should not be satisfied with one gold medal. So that, really talks about him as a person and what he wants to achieve. So I was really proud when I heard that. And I think he's setting the direction for Indian sport, at least, by being vocal about, these things that are happening after the Olympics. So, any thoughts on that?
No, yeah, for sure. The one thing that definitely comes across, I know we discussed this with Xenia in the last episode as well, is he is very single-minded in what he does. He's very very goal-oriented, very focused on what he does best, which is throwing a javelin, right? So I think all of these become unavoidable once you win the gold medal, and once you become one of the only gold medalists, in the Olympics. You're going to get a lot of attention. All of the politicians, all of the sponsors will want to jump on your bandwagon and ride your wave, so to speak, right? So he was probably, it is all probably new to him. I think things will settle down now that he's making all the right noises. Even there was a storm in a teacup a little bit. It's a classic case of social media outrage, right? When he spoke about his javelin being he's just in his interview he was talking about why he appeared so rushed for his first throw, and he was explaining as to how he couldn't find his javelin, and he found it with his fellow athlete from Pakistan, Arshad Nadeem, because I think he must have been holding it by mistake or something, and he just asked for it and he just gave it to him, and that was that. That was all he said. He explained that he appeared a little hurried because somebody else had his javelin. That was not a big deal to him. It didn't affect his overall performance. But then, all of the wonderful and nice people on Twitter had to jump on this Pakistani guy and say, oh, look what they're doing and all of that stuff. So I really liked how he issued the clarification.
मुझे काफी दुख है कि जो इस बात को मेरा सहारा लेके एक इतना जो बड़ा है इसको मुद्दा बना रहे हैं, तो मैं आप सभी से यही विनती करता हूं कि ऐसा ना करें. स्पोर्ट्स सभी को मिलके चलना सिखाता है, और हम सभी जेवलिन थ्रोअर आपस में प्यार से रहते हैं, सभी आपस में अच्छे से बात करते हैं, तो कोई भी ऐसी बात ना कहें जिससे हमको ठेस पहुंचे.
As I said, to the topic that you spoke about and also about this, he's making all the right nice. He seems to have a really nice head on his shoulders.
For sure, 100%. And he also clarified as to how, the javelin came into Arshad Nadeem's hands.
जो हमारी पर्सनल जेवलिन होती है वो हम उसमें रखते हैं, पर उसको सभी थ्रोअर उसको यूज कर सकते हैं, ये रूल है. तो बिल्कुल ऐसा उसमें कोई गलत नहीं है कि वो जेवलिन लेके वो प्रिपेयर कर रहा था अपनी थ्रो के लिए, और मैंने अपनी थ्रो के लिए उसको मांगा.
So it seemed to happen that Arshad Nadeem, timing, it seemed to happen that he was holding the javelin, and but I'm really proud of the way he's, told India to, get back to work, guys. I mean, as athletes, we've celebrated. I think it's really good. Even the politicians, I think the message the politicians should have given has been given by a gold medal winner. So I think it's bravo, good, more power to him.
Yeah, I think that also makes sense now that he said why he appeared hurried, because when I was watching his first throw, you could see he felt like he was all over the place. He was, I spoke about this last time also, he was making sure his belt was okay, his javelin falls off, he picks it up, and then all of a sudden he's ready to go, because he felt like he was running out of time almost. But then again, it didn't really affect him. 87.03 meters on his first throw. So he set the bar really high right up front. So didn't bother him as much.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'm sure we're going to talk more about Neeraj Chopra as this podcast progresses, because I expect a lot from him, and he's going to make us proud again. This is definitely not the end.
Yeah, and don't forget, Olympics are only 3 years away now, not 4 years away. 2024, we'll have the Olympics already in Paris.
For sure. So. And there's also the Asian Games coming up next year, right? So
correct.
I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of our track and field athletes bring glory to us. With that being said, so there's also the Paralympics that are happening in Tokyo this time. So unfortunately, I have not been able to keep up. I am only following the news as to what's happening. Gowtham, have you been keeping in touch with what's happening on this front?
I'm on the same boat as you, Aniketh. Mea culpa twice now. I've not been able to catch any of the Paralympics. I barely caught the important Olympic sports owing to our time zones and whatnot, and I don't think they're showing all the Paralympics live. I think they're showing a few on NBC Sports here, but that is about it. But anyway, I'll let you do the talking about this.
So, just to add, this is not justifying anything, but I could not actually find the Indian athletes, at least on Paralympics on NBC Sport here. So that was one thing. But with that being said, a lot of Indians are making us proud. So our Indian para shuttler, Pramod Bhagat, he has given a statement about his mindset, and he wants to bring 2 medals back, gold medals. So it's not 2 medals, but it's 2 gold medals back to India from the Tokyo Paralympics. And he's also the ace shuttler now. So he's, world number 1 in India. So yeah, more power to him, and I hope he brings glory to us. I'm going to do my best though, as I'm taking a promise to myself that to follow this Paralympics a little bit more than I would normally do. So I'm going to try and keep up to see what's happening.
Yeah, he has a gold in singles as well as the doubles badminton in the World Championships. I think, it is para badminton World Championships. So he's the defending champion. He is clearly the world number 1. So if he says 2 gold medals, that would be great, man.
So there's also Bhavina Ben Patel, who's now gone on to who's reached the knockout stages. So she beat a Great Britain's athlete, Megan Shackleton, in a thrilling match, in a Group A match, and the score was 3-1. So more power to her as well.
Yeah, And also, speaking of the track and field, thanks for sharing this with me, Aniket. During this week, you shared with me the 4x400 mixed medley of the World Under-20 Championships that have been going on, where India won the bronze. That was kind of a very cool race to watch. The Indians did really well. I thought they would win the silver for a second there, because they're cutting it very, very close at the very end.
But look at India go. Well, the medals are going to be between these three athletes. Is it going to be Poland, Nigeria or India for the first ever medals in this mixed 4x400 meters?
Yeah, so once I saw that video, I shared it with anyone and everyone because it just brought so much joy to me. So you were one of the victims of that forward that I did. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching that, especially the way our athletes ran. And it was really close, right? I mean, more power to them.
Yeah, hopefully this is under 20, so all of them are very young. And the cool thing is they've introduced the medley competitions in both the swimming and the Olympics, I think, as well as the track and field now. I think track and field mixed medley and also swimming mixed medley was introduced for the first time in the Tokyo Olympics this year, if I'm not wrong. So that was a really cool thing to watch, as to how those dynamics play out. Obviously the women are a little slower than their men counterparts, but it's also very interesting to see who gets paired up against whom and how that strategy works. I'm sure we'll see a lot of analytics go into that in the future as well. A lot of number crunching, I'm sure, is involved. I know this is again thanks to Jude, who pointed out that we were talking about the World Under-20 Championships. Shaili Singh, who has won the silver medal at the World Under-20 Championships. By the way, this is happening in Kenya, in Nairobi, with a jump of 6.59 meters. So she just I think missed out on gold by 1 centimeter to the Swedish athlete. So that is very impressive to see, mostly because Anju Bobby George, who won the bronze in the 2003 World Championship, is very, very confident and bullish about Shaili Singh. And she said that she's going to break her national record of 6.83 meters. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Shaili does big things now. She's still under 20, but hopefully there's a sign of bigger things to come.
Yeah, to be more precise, she's 17 years old. So, she has her full career front of us, and I'm sure it's going to be, powerful. Especially, so I'm not sure, but I believe Anju Bobby George is actually coaching her in some aspect. I'm not entirely clear on their exact relation. Like, did she just comment on it? But I believe I read somewhere that she was actually coaching, and she's closely involved in her success. So, having her as a coach is pretty good.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's also Amit Khatri, who actually won the silver medal in the 10,000 meter race walk. So he was leading throughout actually, and he got overtaken at the last leg of the race, which was sad to see, but nevertheless, it's a silver medal. And it's very promising because, so to be honest, I've been guilty of not following track and field very closely. And when I see these under 20 athletes who are actually winning world championship, medals, I only see good things coming for India in the future, So these guys are taking on the next generation of athletes. So all these guys whom they're beating are actually their contemporaries and who are going to grow up and play the next Olympics and compete in the next Olympics. So it feels very reassuring and promising in the direction, at least, in which India is moving so far.
100%, that's for sure.
So that mostly wraps up the India and the under 20 World Championships. But Indian team is also in action at England, and we are playing cricket. So Gowtham, I'd like you to take over and walk us through what's happening.
It's very interesting. Me and Jude were just discussing as to how the timing of this podcast has worked out in such a way that anything that we say about cricket immediately gets outdated. As we speak, we are in the middle of the third test between India and England. Things not looking good at all for India after the tremendous high of the Lord's win, Lord's test match. They came to Leeds in Headingley. Actually, Virat Kohli won the toss and chose to bat, and they were immediately skittled. The game, the test match is virtually over after 3 hours of day one, immediately after the lunch session, they're bundled out for 78. So 78 all out doesn't look well, and as if that is not enough, at the end of day two, where we are standing now, In England are 423 for 8. Joe Root, by the way, is looking in just tremendous. He's hit some kind of a purple patch. Nobody seems to be able to figure him out. And he's had, I think, I was reading somewhere that he's well on course. Well, not well on course, but he's on course to beat Bradman's record of most runs against a single team in a calendar year. But then Bradman did it in 7 innings, and Root is kind of trying to get to him. He has 13 innings so far, so that tells you the measure of how great Bradman was. But anyway, the game was over in 3 hours of. I'm going to call this, Aniket. There's no way India's coming back in this test. I'll tell you that. It's 78 all out. Now England are 423 for 8 with lead of 335 or 45 runs. Yeah, not looking good. But we'll definitely do a recap once the series is done. We'll do a whole series recap to hit all of the high points. But I do want to talk briefly about the Lord's win. I know you saw. Did you watch any of it? Go ahead.
So I want to make one comment here, interject, and I want to say it's never over until it's over. The eternal optimist in me says, yeah, it's going to be. There's the slightest of chance for a comeback. I know it's not possible, but you know what? Let's see. Let's hope. Like, hope keeps us alive. Hope keeps us moving. Let's keep moving. Yeah.
I know I have a friend who we often discuss, even if, let's say, the opposing team has been set a target of, let's say, in the 4th innings, like a target of 32 or something, right? To win, it's 32 runs needed. We usually, before the innings start, we say, who knows? It's the last day, day 4, day 5. Sometimes they're playing in India, for example. The pitch may turn all of a sudden. Ashwin might get 3 or 4 on the trot or something, and who knows? It's an open game, but it never happens. Trust me, it never happens.
For sure. I agree with you. So my brain wants to agree with you. There is this, always that underdog story that I'm always chasing. So I've noticed this pattern in me when I'm like even watching a game where I'm neutral, right? I don't support a side.
Yeah.
There's this part in me that always wants that underdog story to come true. I don't know why. And I'm sure it's with a lot of people. But now that the cards are down and everything's down, I don't know how Team India will come back from this. I seriously don't know. I don't think they would, but let's hope for magic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that happens with these collapses is that everything either seems to find the edge. So every good ball seems to find the edge to the keeper or the slips, or every small mistake or every big mistake that the batsmen commit usually seems to be punished immediately. For example, Rohit Sharma played like a half-hearted, tried to hook a ball, but he was half-hearted in it. He was playing very cautiously up until then. So I think he looked at the short ball and tried to hook it, but he was caught in 2 minds and he kind of played a false shot. It was kind of a mistake. But then the ball found the fielder literally on silly mid on. It was like a weird position. So it was one of those days where nothing was going well for India. Sure, batsmen play some false shots, but they also play some false shots when they get a century. It doesn't mean every false shot finds an edge, right? So you always see batsmen playing and missing, but it is one of those days. We also looked at the same thing when they were bowled out for 36. I think they are 36 all out in Adelaide last year. So it was one of those bad days for India when nothing seemed to go right for them.
So I again disagree. I'll tell you why. Because I don't think this was a bad day for the Indian batsmen. I think this has been a problem that's festering for some time now, where the top order seems to, collapse, for a lack of a better word, like bowling pins. And I observed this was even true in the Lord's game. I think the bowlers, the tail-enders got us out of that, situation we were in. So at that point, I say that it was not bad shots, but I think there is something going on with this batting order. And, people have to dig in deep to analyze what's actually happening and why our batsmen are actually letting us down. Because in my opinion, I think the bowlers are helping us win games now. And they're stepping in. For example, I think this is a good segue into the Lord's game, like Shami and Bumrah, the innings they played.
Yeah.
Was, I think, what saved us. I mean, apart from the bowling that, all these pacers put in, I think it was these guys who came and actually gave us hope.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, India going into day 5 of the Lord's Test, it was either going to be, in my mind, I was thinking it was either going to be an England win or a draw. There was no way that India was going to win, considering where things stood. Because, Rahane and Pujara tried to had that, not a brief, but a longer innings. I think they had a 100-run partnership between them. They tried to steady things down, but then Rahane just looks kind of woefully out of form to me at the moment, but he got out, and then the wickets fell, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Shami, it's not as if he can't bat. He has an eye for batting. He can slog and stuff. They were talking about how Vikram Rathod, the batting coach, has been working with the tailenders. Tailenders apparently we can't use anymore. It's the lower batting order or the lower middle order, however you want to call it. So Vikram Rathod has been working with all of these guys. So Bumrah is not a slogger or a big time hitter or anything like that. He's mostly tries to play defense just like Ishant Sharma. But it just so happened that Shami found his groove. Bumrah was able to stick on for a little bit, and they put on an 89-run partnership, and that was a turning point. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Without that partnership, I think England would have been set a target much, much less than 272, which they were eventually set, right? So it was 180 or 185. But you're 100% right. There is the Indian batting order, especially the middle order, seems to be very brittle right now. Nobody seems to be in touch. It doesn't help that Virat Kohli is struggling. He has been in, I think it's been over close to 18 months, I think, since he got a last century in tests, which is very, very, very rare for him. But he's in one of those patches where he's not in form at all. Rahane looks very edgy, doesn't look right to me, to be honest with you. But then the good thing is this Indian team has tremendous depth, so there are a lot of people waiting in the wings. So it won't be too long before we see, I think, Shreyas Iyer or the likes of Suryakumar Yadav, I think, who has really good technique for all forms of the game. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but definitely a thing to be concerned about as far as the batting goes for India. But I think we are talking about the Lord's Test, right, Aniket? Tell me what you liked about it. It was anything that is related to Test cricket, anything that has drama on day 5, I'm all in. That's my favorite thing to watch in cricket.
For sure. I mean, it is the classic cricket, in action. I mean, 5 days, you're tested, I think, for 5 long days, and I love Test cricket, and I love watching it with my dad. So, it's one of the best things I ever get to do is watch Test cricket sit beside my dad and watch it. And yeah, that's one of the best things. I remember my childhood going that way through. But about the Lord's game, I loved the bouncer competition. I think it worked against England, especially when they were trying to do it. I think that's what helped Shami and Bumrah in their game, where, I think it was a tactical mistake by England to actually try and do the same thing that India was actually trying to do to them. So, yeah, I mean, that was what I caught out of the whole series.
So it all kicked off when James Anderson was batting in the first innings. Bumrah was bowling to him, and he kind of peppered him with a few short balls. He was trying to fend off. I think he got hit once, and he bowled a bunch of no balls too. So it was like a 10-ball over to James Anderson. And James Anderson is notoriously known to be one of the most grumpiest cricketers around. He is always talking to the opposition players. He seems to be a very unpleasant player to play against. Let's put it that way. So he really did not like it. So as he was going out, I think, Shami bowled him in that first innings, and then as they were heading back to the pavilion, there were some words exchanged. For some reason, that really got to James Anderson, and when Shami and Bumrah came into the middle, they really tried to, instead of attacking the stumps or bowling like stock balls to find the edge or something, they spread out the field. There was like 5 or 6 players in the deep, trying to pepper them with short balls. They got carried away, as you said, which was a huge, I think, tactical blunder, because that meant that they were able to put on a partnership of 89, which turned out to be the key thing that happened, which eventually led to their downfall. But there is no doubt that this Indian bowling lineup is the best ever for India. There's absolutely no doubt about it. There's like Shami and Bumrah, who are just amazing at what they do. Ishant Sharma has all of a sudden, for the last 3 years, has found his groove in Test match cricket after playing 60 Test matches or something. Because I thought he was a very ordinary Test match bowler, but now he has found his groove. He's bowling much fuller. It's unbelievable what this bowling unit has been doing. And then Mohammad Siraj, I mean, my goodness. So I was watching, if people haven't been watching this, I highly recommend watching Ashwin's YouTube channel. When India win, that is the channel you want to go to see exactly what happened behind the scenes. Don't go there if India lost, because he doesn't usually put anything up when India loses. So he was talking about how the bowling coach Bharat Arun was working with Siraj, and Siraj actually has this stock ball, his newfound stock ball, where it's like a cutter, it's like an off cutter where he uses a scramble seam and rolls his fingers over the ball, but he does it at a pace. So it's not like a slower ball. He does it at a pace. So the ball comes down on a scramble seam, pitches and goes out to the left-hander. So that he has been just bowling that away, and he kept using that ball quite a bit, and that he kept attacking the stumps. For the left-hander especially, he kind of kept it just outside the off stump. He was finding edges all around. But my goodness, what a live wire.
For sure. And I did love the Indian aggressive bowling. It was good to see, especially that Bumrah's over. It is, I felt that the batsman was on the edge, especially when it went 10 balls. It felt, you could see that the batsman was uncomfortable actually facing this over. And it felt good, because I've not seen, I won't say I've not seen, but it's been a long time that I've seen an Indian pacer actually torment someone who is standing. I remember Irfan Pathan doing it in Australia.
Yeah.
That's one of the memories that I have, but it's been a while. And that was for a different reason, right? He was swinging left, right and center. But this was like short balls, and the over kept going, It's like, I don't know, it was a tactic or what it was, but those no balls actually put the batsman off, is what I thought.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to the greatness of Jimmy Anderson, that he came back in the next test match and immediately bounced back. You know what his figures were? 8 overs, 5 maidens, 3 wickets, 6 runs. In the India, he just came back. I think he set up Rahul. He kind of kept bowling him in-swingers. I think 3 or 4 straight in-swingers, and then he just bowled one that left the batsman, and Rahul just got suckered into playing that drive. So yeah, he's an amazing bowler. He's 40 years old and is still going strong, James Anderson. Wonderful, wonderful bowler to watch. Again, appears very grumpy, not a great guy to see when he's sledging and all of that stuff, but amazing bowler. One thing that I also want to talk about the Lord's Test was, we're talking about the bowling here. I really want to talk about one moment in particular when Bumrah got Ollie Robinson out with that slow delivery. It was just an amazing sequence of thinking, right, of tactics. So Ollie Robinson was, he's a decent bat. He can defend the ball. He was playing with no backlift whatsoever with his bat. He was just playing everything onto the ground. He was leaving all the short balls. He was keeping all the Yorkers away. So Bumrah in this over sets, tried a Yorker, tried a short ball, tried a Yorker again. He was defending everything. Then he said, okay, let me change my angle. So he started bowling around the wicket, right? So 4th and 5th balls were 2 short balls, I think. So he was obviously caught a little bit on the back foot. Now remember, if you're a right-hand fast bowler, if you're bowling around the wicket, there's very little chance of a batsman getting LBW, because invariably the ball is either pitching outside the leg stump, which means you can't be out LBW, or the angle of the ball, even if it pitches on line, it takes you away from the off stump. So there's very little chance of getting a batsman out LBW if you're bowling from around the wicket. But I don't know what he thought, what his thinking was, but this is the mark of how good Jasprit Bumrah is. 4th and 5th balls are short balls, and then out of nowhere he bowls this amazing shot. He has a brilliant slower ball because there's no change in his action at all. It's the same arm speed. You literally see no change in his action. And he comes up with this good length, pitching on middle stump, slower ball. Hits him in line. Overton, you could see, was not on the front foot. He was waiting for the short ball, I think. He saw that. It was not a Yorker either, because I think if it was like a fuller ball, he would have still defended it. It was just short of a Yorker. It was just on a good length and hit him right in the back foot, and he was just caught napping. I don't think even the umpire believed that it would be an LBW, so he gave it not out. So they immediately went up and reviewed and it was out.
Big appeal. Big appeal from Bumrah. He's swinging up. And he's gone straight away. Virat Kohli, we're having a look upstairs.
Umpire to director, we have a player review for LBW.
Did it pitch in line? You bet it did. Bumrah went straight up.
And hitting the wickets. I'm going to go back to Richard on field. Change your decision.
Oh, the brilliance of Bumrah.
It's just an unbelievable sequence of the game.
For sure. And I'm also seeing the notes here, and a few words deserve to be said about Joss Butler. So we have Joss Butler's defensive masterclass. So do you want to add something to that?
No,
Gautam?
yeah. So, yeah, he's known to be this aggressive guy who plays his shots all the time. But for him to score 19 runs of 77 is quite good, actually, because that tells you he can adapt. But then Siraj got him with that with that ball. He got suckered in like Rahul did in this third test. So, yeah, it was a good showing from Joss Butler, but in the end, it's one of those test matches where I so wanted to watch this live, but my work commitments didn't let me watch it. But I probably watched the highlights 4 or 5 times so far. So
yeah, and I was one of. So we spoke about the optimism, hope, and stuff, but I was one of, at least in my friend circle, I was not too excited about the Lord's win because the full series was still remaining. You could not, it was too early to call anything, but nevertheless, winning at Lord's is winning at Lord's. I mean, there is no two ways about it. You're away from home and you're, especially with the kind of performance, the way the game played out, it worked out to be one of those epic games that went up to the 5th day, and it was nail biting for a test game.
And it sets up for a great series too, because now England, as we just said, England is probably going to win the 3rd test. So it's going to be 1-1 going into the 4th test most likely. So it sets up for a great test series.
For sure. And I'm excited to see how this all turns out. So you also wanted to talk about Mark Boucher, and you briefly mentioned this to me prior, so I just wanted to let you take this away, and because I don't know much about that issue, and I thought it would be interesting for the listeners to learn more about it from you, about Mark Boucher and the South African team.
So in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, South Africa and South African cricket have been having these hearings. They're calling it the Social Justice and Nation Building hearings. Essentially it's like an open invitation for any of the minority players, mostly the black players, to come and talk about their experiences, be open about it. It is like a forum that is open to all of the players to kind of air, any grievances with regards to their race, right? So South African cricket has been, ever since they came back after the apartheid in 92, the track record has been that it's been overwhelmingly white-dominated team. Eventually, because they introduced the quota system wherein they had to have a fixed number of black players or non-white players in their team. But there's still a lot of structural issues when it comes to dealing with, race and also minority players within the team. So there have been a lot of players who have come forward and shared some kind of honestly depressing stories. Maka Antini came and shared a few things as to how he was treated when he was in the South African dressing room. I think he spoke about how he used to kind of prefer running back to the hotel instead of taking the team bus because he was not treated as well. Paul Adams, if you remember, the left-arm wrist spinner who had that wonderful action that we all tried to mimic once in our life at least. So he came out and said, he was treated very, very unfairly and very badly. And he accused Mark Boucher, the wicketkeeper batsman, now retired. I think now he was on the Cricket South African board. I think he might have resigned already. So Paul Adams accused Mark Boucher of calling him some derogatory racist remarks and derogatory remarks. I think he accused him of calling him brown shit, I think. So Boucher after that came out and released a statement and said, yes, he did in fact admit that he said that words, but as if, to make things better, he said, the name did not originate from me, but I definitely called him that, but it did not originate from me is what he said. And he also came with the usual things where he said he was naive, he was young and brash, and I didn't know better and all of that. So I think these social justice and nation building hearings, they're calling it the SJN hearings. These are much needed. It kind of exposes what everybody already know, there are some structural issues within the South African cricket setup. Graham Smith, by the way, is the director of South African cricket right now. He's heading the South African cricket body. Remember, Graham Smith was a white player who was the captain for South Africa for a long time. So it was under him that there are also a lot of these issues were coming up. So it kind of is not a good look that he's the director now and he's kind of overseeing South African cricket when all of these things are happening. So it remains to be seen what happens in the future. But definitely it exposes some very, very bad chinks in the armor as far as South African cricket board goes.
First, thank you so much for educating me on this. So I was totally oblivious to this happening, and I think it's very important for me and the world in general to actually know about things like this that have happened. And racism, unfortunately, in today's world still remains a problem. So, and rightfully so, it should be addressed. And at least by what you're saying, obviously we have to see where this goes. Like you said, there is politics also with who's the director and stuff, but it would be nice to see, finally something taking shape and actually causing effect. More than most of these things build with steam, and then they eventually at some point fizzle out, which is sad in a lot of sense. But I'm also seeing hope, because Premier League, for example, footballers, you still see them kneeling now out of respect for the Black Lives movement that was started, Black Lives Matter movement that was started. So there is hope, and again, thanks for educating me on this, that this was actually happening.
Yeah, there's definitely this culture of othering the minority players within the South African cricket team. So I'm going to recommend a podcast at the end, which kind of talks about exactly what happened and what is happening in the world of South African cricket. So that I'm sure we'll have more to come on this as well.
I want to use Neeraj Chopra's words and say, sports is meant to bring people together, and I think this cannot be more true any time than today, in today's world, especially what's happening, in sport, out of sport in our country and stuff like that. I think we need a larger unifying, agenda or a motive. And I think sport does a beautiful job to actually bring people from all facets of life together. And
actually, in fact, within the South African sports setup, rugby did it great. The Springboks, they had a new coach. I think they won a World Cup recently, and they had a coach who made all the right noises from the beginning. He said, we are going to have black players. I'm going to appoint a black player as a captain, not because I'm checking a box, but he's also fit to be the captain of the team. So he actually, from the beginning, he set a very, very cordial and unifying tone, and that worked wonders. Now it's the opposite. South African cricket has been doing stuff because they have to and not they want to, So yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it's probably going to get destructive before it gets constructive, but either way, as long as it leads to good actions, we should be good.
Sometimes you have to force change. Sometimes, and I think it's good to just start, no matter how the ball is set rolling. It's good that it just starts rolling, and we hope it snowballs into something larger. So with that being said, let's segue into what we've been excited about for a while now. Football. The season's back. The transfer market is hot. So Gautham, just take us through this.
Yeah, the transfer market right now is out of control. Well, let's look at what transfers have not been happening, right? Let's start with Harry Kane. Harry Kane is with the Spurs right now. He's with Tottenham Hotspur. For almost, right from the Euros this year, there has been talks of Harry Kane moving to Man City. Man City has put an offer in. Spurs are not accepting it. They've put a better offer now, and now they're not accepting it. Kept going and going and going. I think finally, Harry Kane yesterday, so that is 25th of August or 24th of August, came out, and I think he tweeted this, and he said he's not going anywhere. He wants to focus on helping the club achieve some trophies this season. Which, that's a classic. Let me talk to my agent first. Okay, here's your text that you want to put. Here's the picture that you have to put for the tweet. And here we go. Let's do it. So whatever happened, I think the talks fell through. The Tottenham, the club's owner is notorious for, not letting his players go unless he gets a really, really good price. So looks like he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and it seemed initially that Kane wanted to leave too. At least that was my reading of the situation. At least that's what things
for sure
pointed at. And I was surprised because he was also left out of a couple of games. But then there was this talk of him recovering. There was injury and stuff. I'm not sure how true that is. Was he left out as a punishment?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea on what was
No,
going
I think there were a lot of shenanigans there. So I think he said he had a minor niggle, he didn't participate in training, right? So that's like a classic example of a player not wanting to play for the team because he knows that he's either leaving or he's kind of putting pressure on the club to force a transfer. So you see that all the time in NBA basketball where he goes, I have this like a minor niggle in my hamstring, so I'm going to sit this out. When everybody knows that he wants out. So I think that was a classic case of a little bit of shenanigans there from Harry Kane.
Well, so he's now told us he's going to sit in with the Spurs for a while. I don't know. I have mixed emotions. I feel he's 27, 28 now. I think it's he's at the peak age. I think this is where strikers tend to peak. You've matured. You played seasons. You've played all sorts of tournaments. I mean, Nuno Espirito Santos is coaching Tottenham Hotspur, so that is exciting. Actually, I'm a big fan of him. So it's good to see what the coach would do. But I was expecting Harry Kane to actually leave and get some silverware. I think it's time because he's almost had no silverware for the brilliant man he is and for the show he puts on every time he steps on the field. Him not having silverware is surprising.
Yeah, he's a really good striker for sure.
With that being said, Kylian Mbappe. So there is a lot happening on that front. So just to give context, Real Madrid had put in an offer of 160 million euros. It was rejected.
Hold on. How much was it again?
160 million euros.
Jeez.
And it was rejected. So they went back again with an offer of 170 million euros. And I think now negotiations are happening because I don't think they rejected. But there was a statement from the president, I believe, who said that Mbappe promised to not leave for free. So there is that in place. But there's also the fact that they said Mbappe wants to leave. And they would only let him go for the right price.
And there's only 1 year remaining on his contract, right?
Right. So next year, if he leaves, he goes for free. And basically, Real Madrid in January, I think 6 months before the contract ends, can get him for free. But the offer is 170 million, which is actually a very good bait for PSG to actually let him go. Because they spent 180 million euros on paper to pay to Monaco. But they've only paid, I believe, 140 out of that. So the next 35 odd goes after this, renew his contract or sell him. So they still, get some positive, money out of this transfer with Kylian Mbappe. And he seems to be interested to go. I mean, he's always wanted to play for Real Madrid. So there's no surprises on that front. But let's see.
And I think PSG is in a little bit of a pickle here. So all they want to do, PSG's only intention right now is to win the Champions League and nothing else, right? All they want to do is win the Champions League and nothing else. They're going to win the league and all of that doesn't really matter. All they want to do is win the Champions League. So now to win the Champions League, they have Messi now, they have Neymar and they have Mbappe. Now, I think the dilemma for them is, do you let Mbappe go and is Messi and Neymar on the front with Di Maria good enough to win us the Champions League, right? Because if they feel so, they can now sell Kylian Mbappe. But if they do not, if they wish to keep him, the downside is that they're probably going to let him go for free because he's gone either way after this year, I'm pretty sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. At the end of the day, it's Qatar, right? It's the government of Qatar that sponsors the PSG. I don't think they really care about the money, Aniket, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
if they want to keep him, they'll keep him.
Yeah, I think the only thing that maybe stops them is all financial fair play rules that are...
Yeah, but remember, they got Messi for free.
For sure.
They got Donnarumma for free. They got Sergio Ramos for free. So I don't know how much effect on financial fair play will have because they haven't bought anybody, so to speak, right? So it'll be interesting to see. Now, Real Madrid, for all of their so-called quote-unquote financial troubles and what is the president's name? Real Madrid's president's name?
Florentino Perez,
right? So he came out and said, we really need this Super League because our clubs are in danger. We are in financial peril and all of that. And now they're ready to give, $170 million to Kylian Mbappe. So there you have it. You have to stay a big club. You have to spend big, even though you're in financial peril.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting to see how this would actually play out because, I don't see PSG... I don't know how I feel because PSG seems like the Avengers, right? They've been assembled to win just one trophy, the Champions League. Like that's the only goal here with this team because I don't think they have a great competition in the French league, especially with the way they are going. They're like, it's a one-person league. So the Champions League is what is important, and I don't know if Kylian Mbappe believes he would like to stay and win the league with them or go and play with Real Madrid. There are too many variables here at play. So with that being said, an honor mention goes to a guy who is coming back to Premier League, Romelu Lukaku. So he's been back with Chelsea for a good 135 million. I think that was the amount that they paid for him. And he did torment Arsenal at least half worth that amount in the last game they played, because he just toyed around with their centre backs. Like, he's physically so strong. I mean, Arsenal just seem to be, and it's more than that. We'll go into maybe spend a couple of minutes on tactics of Arteta and stuff like that. But just I wanted to give 2 words to Romelu Lukaku, because he seems to have entered the league on a good game. I don't know if it's going to go on like this, but he's really seemed to dominate the Arsenal defense.
He had an amazing game, and now he's not only physically stronger than anybody, he's quicker than ever before. And if you looked at if you saw his goal, just the way he was running past those defenders, kind of bullying them out of the way. Oh man, and his hold-up play is just legendary. Anyway, he just gets the ball, holds it up, waits for everybody to run past him on the right and the left, and he's a great distributor of the ball too. But yeah, man, Arsenal I think is, I don't know where Arsenal is. I don't think they should even be in the top 5 or the top 6 anymore.
Well, they're not. So I think that's how it stands. And yeah, it's sad to see a club like that. But at this point, this is when I really respect what Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger actually did for their clubs, At least in Wenger, people were like really after him to, send him out. He's too old. But now when you think about the team he actually assembled, and he competed continuously for the top 4 spots. They played with Nicholas Bentner as the lead striker at one point of time.
Yeah.
So you got to give it to that guy that, whatever he did, he got them on the top 4 Champions League spot year in, year out. And this is where now in hindsight, I think it's going to be much kinder to Arsene Wenger than
while at the same time not spending more. There's always been, ever since the Emirates came about, the stadium, the Kroenkes are notorious for not spending as much, right? They also own the Denver Nuggets, by the way, in the NBA. They are not big money spenders. So he had to kind of work within a budget. He was not in a position to spend extravagantly to get all these players. So even with those resources, he managed to get Arsenal into the Champions League almost every season. He kind of eventually, his time was up in the end. But I think while he was there, I think people kind of failed to appreciate him a little more than what he got. But that's how fandom works sometimes, right? So you don't win a trophy, it's probably a lost season.
I mean, he was driving a Fiat in the Formula 1, so I think he got the best out of the 22, 25 odd players he had with him at his disposal. So yeah, with that being said, so I also want to briefly talk about, I don't know did you follow the La Liga? Did you see anything in the La Liga this week?
So I was not able to watch anything in the La Liga. I know it's on ESPN now, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had a lot of American sports TV talk here. I think ESPN struck this deal with La Liga obviously because Messi and Suarez were there, and now Messi has gone to the French Liga. So it's kind of a raw deal for them.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, all these deals, even there's this new capital firm that invested in the La Liga.
Yeah.
It's troubling times for La Liga. They've lost huge players, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Lionel Messi. Now, if Mbappe comes, maybe that is some form of an equalizer. I don't know, but we'll see. But it's been a league that's, fluttering here and there, even in competitions and stuff. You're seeing the big clubs. But I saw my team Barcelona play, and we somehow put our leg on the ball and got a goal. Memphis Depay got us a goal and drew with Atletico Bilbao. So that was one game. The other game was very exciting, was Real Madrid versus Levante. So it was 3-3, a crazy draw, and a 85th minute goal by Vinicius Jr. So yeah, that was something I just wanted to talk about, because these are
don't sleep on both of these players that you mentioned. Vinicius Jr. is pretty good. He's kind of goes under the radar a little bit because he's very young and obviously Real Madrid and both Barca has these bigger stars. But Vinicius Jr. is pretty good. And also Memphis Depay, he's found his mojo back, man. He's really good with Holland. What club was he in? Remind me again before he moved to Barcelona.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can check real quick, but he's really found his rhythm back, because he was kind of out in the doldrums before. I remember he was in Van Gaal got him for Man United, because Van Gaal, the Dutch coach, he really likes getting Dutch players on board. So Memphis Depay struggled when he was in Manchester United. So he was in Lyon before Barcelona. but that's where he found his form back, and he had these really good goal scoring seasons. So yeah, don't sleep on both of these guys. Memphis Depay is going to be good for Barcelona. It's probably going to again not get as much attention as the big players do, but La Liga is still not a bad league to watch.
For sure, man. I mean, I want to shout out to Ansu Fati, who's the youngster in Barcelona. I don't know if you guys haven't seen him, go check him out. He's a 16, 17-year-old guy. Brilliant. He's just back from injury, so that's very exciting. There's Pedri in the Barcelona team, who turned out to be a superstar, at least for Spain, and even Barcelona.
He was amazing in the Euro.
Yeah, exactly. So there is exciting things happening in both those teams. So La Masia is doing okay. I mean, we are not too bad.
Yeah, that's what Real Madrid has to try to do also. Just cash in on Vinicius Jr., try to recruit some young folks. They have the scouts. They can spend the money on scouts instead of spending, 180 million on Mbappe and trying to get him, and then go further deep into the hole, So we'll see what happens. But again, it's great to have club football back in our lives. Every weekend, it's always fun to follow football.
For sure. And, I would like to take this opportunity to reach out to the subscribers, listeners, and let them know to, we are not experts in any sport or every other sport as well. So please reach out, share your love for sport with all of us. At least me and Gautam have ears that are waiting to listen to any new insights that come in. So reach out to us at contact@newslaundry.com with NL playoffs in your subject, so the mails get to us. And just reach out and say hi.
Indeed, yeah, we are very excited that some of you are writing into us also. We actually, as I said on the top of the show, hopefully are going to have a subscriber on next episode once the US Open is done. So we're looking forward to have as many subscribers on this podcast as possible. All we need is to talk to more people and learn more about how they watch sports and what they know, and get some more insights from them. Do subscribe to News Laundry. Go to newslaundry.com and hit that subscribe button. That's how me and Aniketh met. That's how I met a lot of really smart people who are willing to engage and very open. The organization is extremely open to any feedback, any suggestions. They always have an open dialogue going. So please do subscribe to newslaundry.com and please help to keep news free. Let's move on to recommendations, Aniketh. What do you have?
So I want to do a recommendation on football. So I was watching this docu-series called This Is Football, and I saw it on Amazon Prime. Maybe you can find it on other streaming services. But it was brilliant. It started brilliantly, and I liked what it had. So it starts with the Rwanda genocide and how the Hutu Tutsi genocide actually happened. And it talks about the love for Liverpool of that country and how it brought the country together, actually. So, and that's the first episode. It slowly goes on to the Iceland national team. So we saw the Icelandic national team in Russia in action, of how they don't have a league of their own. And their head coach was a part-time dentist, I believe. So, it was a very inspirational story. So they cover various aspects of football, and they go from the women's soccer team in the US to all the way to Iceland national team. So it was a very interesting docu-series, and I would recommend people take a look at that.
I have 3 recommendations. The first one is, it's a repeat recommendation. Please go and watch Ted Lasso, the show, if you can. It's on Apple TV. It is a really well-made show. It's very funny. It's very quirky. Jason Sudeikis is in it. It's very good. It's based on an American high school coach who goes to England and tries to teach football, or tries to coach football to a professional team. So it's very interesting. It's a very feel-good show. Definitely watch that out. The other one is, I know we spoke about the South African cricket and various issues they're having in terms of race. So do check out The Red Inker with Jared Kimber. That's a podcast. And he had Lungani Zama. He's a cricket journalist. The episode is called The South African Othering with Lungani Zama. It's the Red Inker podcast. So do check it out. He gives you a good context of exactly what's been happening over the years and what is the situation now. And the final one is, check out another podcast called The Final Word with Adam Collins and Jeff Levin. This is also a cricket-based podcast. This episode is titled Cricket and the Taliban. So they actually talked to a journalist, Afghanistan journalist, who literally escaped the night before they recorded the podcast from Kabul, and they talk in terms of from a lens of cricket and what that means moving forward now that the Taliban has taken over there. So do check that out. All right, we will definitely hope to have some more subscriber engagement, guys. As I said, please do write to us. And until next time, Aniket, thank you. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Bye-bye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.